Hi, my name is Seth.
And I'm Youjin.
She's a German costume designer. I'm an American opera singer. We live in Berlin.
And we're having a baby during a pandemic.
Stick around for Seth Learn Dad. So we had our Zoom meeting last night, our first birthing class, and it was pretty interesting. It was fun. I think it's something that I needed for sure. Because what was interesting to me is it's funny when you're becoming a parent, you don't want to be the person who talks to all your friends about your parenting journey all the time. Your friends who don't have kids, who aren't having kids, you know?
Or aren't pregnant. Yeah.
And then if you don't want to just be the person who talks about it all the time, so you try to keep it to yourself. But then it was really cool for the first time to talk to other people.
So they're in the same situation.
Exactly.
And I feel the same. It was really nice talking to all these. I think it was like we were maybe a group of 8 couples.
But everybody was really warm and welcoming and open.
Yes.
The way people were willing to just talk about anything. It was great. It made me really happy.
And I really liked the midwife.
She's fantastic. Yeah. A lot of that discussion opened up into, we started by talking about like what are the things that are positive about being pregnant, what are the things that are annoying or negative about being pregnant. And it opened up into a conversation with a lot of people talking about their home life right now during quarantine, during the pandemic.
Yeah, our situation is different from the other couple's situation because we're both at home all the time. None of us has to or can really work, but a lot of them were doing home office, or I think some of them even had to like physically go to work still. And they were just talking about the problem of like spending time together because the partner who has to work felt pressured sometimes because he felt that his partner was unhappy with the situation because she didn't get as much time as she would like, and the partner was not ready after work to jump into like couple time giving her all the attention that she needed, and but they all figured it out somehow. I mean,
well, that was what was cool about it, is that everybody was helping each other. Like the other foreign couple that had a big question about how the German health system works, and instead of it being a lecture from the midwife, it was more let's help each other, and then
group conversation.
Yeah, it was a group conversation, and some couples with more experience with that could help them, and it was, I think that was what the midwife did that was particularly cool, was to direct it to as much of a group conversation and couples helping couples rather than her just telling us all what to do.
Yeah, and she even said that she doesn't want this to be just her talking all the time and this being a lecture, but also like a group thing. I also like that she started with asking us to write down all the questions that are important to us. I mean, we had difficulties coming up with questions. She would probably like build the course on these like
on our needs.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's cool. It's very a group effort in learning together and learning from each other, in addition to learning from our teacher, and totally different people from different backgrounds and different experiences. Listening to the way some couples talk to each other, like it's just so different from the way we talk to each other, and it's good, of course, to be around that as much as possible.
Absolutely.
We're outside because we're doing the amazingly responsible parenting thing of throwing our daughter in front of a movie so that we can be out here.
Aw, that's so nice.
And she's watching Fox and the Hound.
Oh, Fox and the Hound, great.
Yeah.
She's probably torturing the cat.
Oh, good, good. I am talking today to two of my most wonderful friends, Lindsey and Greg McMahon. This is really special for me because we've been close friends ever since graduate school, and I'm really glad you guys are here. So thank you so much for giving me your time.
We're happy to be here, Seth.
Absolute pleasure. Anything for you, sweetness.
Oh, that's too kind. Well, all right. So where are you guys from?
So I hail from Portland, Oregon, and that's where we are right now, from our house.
I'm from Girard, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Erie, Pennsylvania, which is meaningless to most people.
Okay. So how did you meet?
We met in 2005
Yeah,
at the University of Michigan. So
yeah, some dude I knew.
Some dude we knew named Carrico introduced us.
He introduced me to
15 years ago.
this real charity case over here. And,
Oh, man.
So yeah, I was getting my master's in vocal performance, and Greg was getting his master's in flute performance. And yeah, we had a mutual friend named Seth Carrico.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
who introduced us.
Yeah, and Seth was just, he just said that there was this really, really amazing girl who needed to meet more people. And since I knew everyone at the school, because I guess I'm a social butterfly.
Well, and the flute players are always the most popular people around, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's true.
So we became friends for a good year. And then we started dating in September 21, 2006.
Yep.
And then we got married September 21, 2008.
No way.
Yeah, we kept the same date.
Yeah, because I'm not all that
He's
bright.
a simpleton.
Yeah,
so we wanted to make it.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Whose idea was that?
Oh, that was hers.
Yeah.
Any good idea we have is hers. I mean, I'm basically arm candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll throw in my side of this. Lindsey and I, we sang together a bunch. We did Cozy Fan Tutte together, and it was a very fond memory. And Greg was my first ever voice student, and one of very few that I've had in my life because I'm a terrible voice teacher. But I will say this: like back then, I mean, Greg had this remarkable voice, this natural voice. He was an opera fan his entire life, and then he could just sing in this way. So tell me about that. Tell me about your relationship, Greg, to opera.
I would sing little things here and there just for fun, and people would be like, that's very strange. And so I always likened it to, like, I spent my entire life loving basketball, and then finally someone was like, hey, you realize you're 7 feet tall?
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. I would definitely describe your voice as about 7 feet tall. So
right. So yeah, and so then it was like, well, 7 feet tall doesn't guarantee anything, but there are a lot of people who would love to be 7 feet tall. Maybe you should try doing something.
And where did you go? Did you guys move straight to Portland then?
So I cut my time at my master's. I did it really fast in 3 semesters.
Yeah.
And back to Portland to do their Portland Opera's Young Artist program of Hansel and Gretel. So that's why I came back to my hometown and did that. And then in May, Greg decided to come out to Portland too.
Well, he knew it was good for him.
Yeah, I knew. Oh, no, I mean, definitely try to go up when it comes to relationships. Well, here's your opportunity. You can try to do something different. There's this amazing girl. You absolutely are head over heels with her. So it's like, and if it doesn't work out, what did you lose? 6 months? Something like that. And so I just took my Buick and packed it full of all of my miscellaneous crap that probably should have left anyway. What didn't fit got left on the curb, and I started driving. And so May 20th, 2007, I ended up here in Portland.
And he moved in with my mom at my mom's house.
My God. So were you playing the flute when you got to Portland still?
As we all know, music is a network business, and I moved across the country. So poof, there goes your network. And I got out here, and it was one of those things where I definitely had intentions on the young lady over here. And it was like, well, I can't wait 3 to 5 years to build a network. as a flutist who make probably not good money. And so it was at that point I'm like, well, I better just get a job and get myself viable so that you know, I'm not crashing on people's couches and trying to woo their daughter at the same time. It's not a good look.
So Lindsey, what about you? After when you finished the Young Artist program, what happened next for you?
So yeah, we did 90 shows of Hansel and Gretel in different schools. Yeah, it was intense, you know, 1 to 2 shows a day. And it's ironic, it's through Portland Opera's program that I got to work in elementary schools. And I remember working with a 4th grade class and just being like on cloud 9, like it was amazing. I loved it. And I remember leaving and being so surprised that I liked working in schools. And it kind of, that moment planted the seed that, you know, maybe where I really am meant to be, like purpose, is teaching elementary music. So I made the switch a few years ago and I love it.
Oh, that's so great. Greg, you were working for school at that point already, or no? How did you get to the long-term job that you found there?
When I first got out here, actually, it was my brother-in-law who's just an incredible guy who put me to work working for him, helping do rehab work on houses, and you know, with his letter of recommendation and then some other recommendations that I had from my music career, I was able to go and get a job at a nonprofit here in town, doing fundraising stuff. And and you know, I think I was there for about 6 months, and then I went to this private school, K through 12 private school, pre-K through 12 private school here in town. And then I was there for 10 years, helping raise money. I think I was good at what I did, and I think, you know, if I had one that I really aligned with mission-wise, I probably could have done better, but this one wasn't a particularly great fit. And, you know, it was the job. But, I mean, you know, there's always that moment where you're pulling up into the parking lot and you're just grabbing the steering wheel and you're like, you know, when you spend 5 minutes trying to psych yourself up to go into the building to do your job every day, and you know, let's just say the writing's on the wall.
So where did your child come into that story?
So, you know, Greg and I, graduating from Michigan, we both had some student loan debt. And, you know, that's not a unique situation for most Americans. And, you know, here we were highly skilled musicians, and we realized there's not many jobs out there for us. And so we decided we had to get really practical. So we, you know, opened up our own real estate company, started a corporation. We owned 3 properties, managed our tenants. Because of that and our hard work there, we were able to pay off our student loan debt. And all of a sudden we became to a new place financially where we're like, you know what, we can bring a child into this world and feel okay about it. So literally, I think it was right after we made that final student loan debt payment.
And paid off the house.
And paid off our house, where we're like, all right, maybe we can have a family now. So I got pregnant and Mo was born in 2017.
Greg, how did you go from sitting in the car with your hands on the steering wheel, psyching yourself up every day to go into work, like to finding a solution out of that situation?
One of the things that happened was Lindsey had a student teach before she was getting her degrees to go become a teacher, elementary music teacher. And so during that period, we were one income. I was really, really thrilled because, you know, Lindsey found not just a job, she found a career. She found something she loved doing and got up every day really excited to do. I was taking voice lessons, and, you know, my voice was really, you know, I mean, I was a late start, and I don't know that that's actually anything that you can ever really recover from. But it was definitely taken off, and it was just the idea of talking to people that I knew and the type of voice that I had and everything. They said, there's not going to be a lot for you here in the States, especially starting out. It's just going to be super hard to get any experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started talking about it, and it was one of those, I don't want to be 90 years old and have a regret.
So we had a cousin in Germany. I had a cousin who lived in Berlin.
And we knew some
And I took 4 years of
smart-ass,
German. And we knew a smart ass who was a singer at the Deutsche Oper. So we decided to, we decided to buy a one-way ticket.
So the decision to move to Germany seemed clear to benefit Greg in that situation. What was your situation in Germany? Did you figure out what you were going to do when you got there?
I found some work at an international school, teaching music, which is exactly what I love doing. And, truthfully, I always wanted to travel to Germany. And so it was kind of beneficial for both of us. I wanted to get the chance to speak German.
Mm-hmm.
I had studied it here in the States. And so I got a job at an international school working. And that allowed us to get our visa, my work visa. It allowed us to have health insurance. And so it gave us a little bit of a security blanket before we took that big leap of faith on a.
You, of course, needed to get settled in how you were going to live with a child in a new country, finding a pediatrician and so on. Like, what was that process like?
As an American in Berlin, using the healthcare system, the whole time you're always like, okay, so what's the catch?
Right.
And they're like, there's no catch. And you're like, yeah, that's what everyone says when there's a catch.
Right.
We didn't realize, but we had this huge mistrust and this whole apprehension and fear just, with using health insurance. And it was so effortless and so easy. And
which is ironic to me because, it's a benefit that you get, and yet we were terrified to use it. So how is it a benefit?
I understand. For the first 8 years that I lived here, 7 years that I lived here, I didn't go to the doctor because I was so conditioned to not being able to afford it that I just no matter how sick I got, people would be like, well, why don't you go to the doctor? And then working in a fest job at Deutsche Oper, they'd be like, well, why don't you just call in sick and just go to the doctor? I'm like, well, then I'll lose my job. And they're like, what? Why would you lose your job? You're sick. Even canceling a performance, they'd be, only for fest singers, of course, but they'd be like, if you cancel a performance and you have a doctor's note, you're not going to lose any money because you're incapacitated. You can't do your job and it's not your fault. And I'm like, just like.
Yeah, we had that moment, culture shock, when I was talking to the HR person at the international school. I said, okay, so how many sick days do I have per year in my contract? And he looked at me he didn't understand my question. He's like, what do you mean sick days? If you're sick, don't come to work, please.
Yeah, and I was watching the whole thing as an observer, and it was just fun to watch them go in circles around each other. So no, but I get 10 days a year where I'm allowed to be sick. And he's
in the United States.
And he's like, what do you mean you get 10 days where you're allowed to be sick?
If you're sick, you're just sick. And I said, well, no.
Yeah, but there's got to be a cap. How many times am I allowed to? Well, you're allowed 6 weeks per any qualified illness. Wait.
It's not even comparable.
I really thought the end of that sentence was going to be year, not illness. It's like,
yeah. Right.
It's not even close. And so all of a sudden, things change. I was so generous, and I didn't have to be afraid about calling sick if I was sick. I didn't have to just push through. I didn't have to worry about not getting paid. And so, here in the States, teachers, they get 10 sick days a year. And if you don't use all of them, you get to roll them over.
Oh.
And so what happens for many young women who are wanting to start families, what they do is they never take their sick days, even if they are sick, because they want to get paid for those 12 weeks.
Mo was too young to have any kind of comprehension of what was going on, but how did she handle growing up here? Did she like it here?
We've been gone now since August. And she still, this morning, she woke up and the very first thing she said was, Kuchen?
Yeah. Kuchen. And every night I have this German book of prayers that I read her, and she knows the words too. So we're still keeping like that aspect of Germany. I think she loved it. We had a membership at the zoo, and we'd go every week at least.
Probably twice a week.
To the zoo, and she got to see animals. She loved taking the U-Bahn and the S-Bahn. She loved
Spielplatz. Oh God, yeah, the Spielplatz.
The playgrounds are amazing in Berlin.
And terrifying parent.
One thing that a lot of Americans don't understand is the childcare culture here. And I know you guys didn't quite get fully into that, but I would like to hear the process, Lindsey, that you went through in finding a kindergarten for Mo, because you have a great story, and you were a machine about this process, because it's a very difficult one. They always say in Berlin, finding an apartment and finding a kita or a kindergarten are like the two hardest things you can do.
But I want to go and preface this by saying that's Lindsey is a machine about all of those things.
I love spreadsheets like you, Seth. I mean, I love spreadsheets.
I love them. They calm me. They make everything okay.
I created an Excel spreadsheet where I entered all the kita names. I entered what was special about them, Montessori, bilingual. I entered their addresses. I specifically said how far away they were from our apartment in Steglitz. And then I went to all their websites. I put us on all the waiting lists. I probably had, 150.
Wow.
On this spreadsheet. And I put us on the waiting list and sent out emails to all of them, copy paste. I got invited to take some tours, and so that was always fun, taking Greg and Mo and having a German conversation the whole time. And then we got a letter in the mail asking if Mo wanted to join. And I was so shocked. They apologized in their letter that they would have a €8 fee
per month
for organic foods. And if that was not within our budget, they understood, but just to let us know if we were okay with that additional charge. So, now that we're back in the States, to pay, it's also ironic because it's hard to find a spot in the States too for childcare. Besides having to pay, a full-time job salary. So we decided when we came back here, that it didn't necessarily make sense for us to put Mo in a full-time daycare and pay $1,600 a month.
$1,600 a month.
That's a significant percentage of your take home in a month to not see your kid. And, at that point, then, especially with our experience earlier on of us having had experience as a one-income household, it was,
let's do it.
Let's just do it, because why am I going to pay a lot of money to not watch my kid grow up? And we can do it, and do it. We're very fortunate.
We're really lucky. We have a lot of friends that they have to have two incomes, and they, if they have a grandparent, they're really lucky. But a lot of them are just having to put a huge portion of their incomes towards childcare, and that's just normal. And that's the frightening thing. Like we come back and we're like, it doesn't have to be this way. It can be better. And they can't even relate.
Yeah, well, because the bottom line is then you have to pay more in taxes, and that's just where the conversation ends.
I know. And then I always compare. I think I pay 5% more of my salary in Germany compared to what I paid here.
Only 5%.
Yes, it was a 5% increase. And for that, you had a transportation system that could get you anywhere in the country. You had, I can't remember the last time I saw a pothole when I was in Germany compared to Portland. Portland's like Beirut. As far as potholes and stuff. Socialized healthcare. Free childcare. Actually, they pay you to maintain your child
with Kindergeld.
Oh my God, it's so amazing. We find out all the time all these other little things that we're entitled to, like all these little nickel and dime things. They add up, and it's just like, oh my God, they really care about taking care of young parents here or new parents here.
Right. I mean, I remember Lindsay and I were like the whole time it was one of those, but wait, there's more.
I
You're like,
know.
wait, huh?
And to have that experience as being foreigners and outsiders, it was so generous. Like the welcome that we received from the government. We felt safe and we felt protected and we felt taken care of, and we had these things in place that really made a difference. And to be treated that way as an outsider who struggled speaking German, like it was so generous. And man, it was, we really appreciated it, and it kind of blew our minds.
So you said you moved back, and then because of the cost of health or childcare, you decided that only one of you would work. So who's working?
I'm working.
Yeah. Back at the previous job that you had before.
Yeah.
So Greg, you're staying at home then.
Yes, indeed. I am the stay-at-home dad, and with all the real and sarcastic joys that entails.
What does that entail then? Like what are the real and sarcastic joys and consequences of that?
Well, the real joy is I've got a great bond with my daughter.
Yeah, you can tell that their closeness is just really close, and their level of comfort around each other. I can tell with Mo. She just wants to sit with Dad.
On the other side, yeah, no, I mean, it's sarcastically, yeah, there are lots of joys there. I mean, I frequently go to the park and, you know, am mommy shamed, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like, I go to the park with Mo, and the moms are like, who's the creepy guy? And because if Mo's running around, they couldn't identify that I was with her. So I was just some dude sitting on a bench at a park watching kids, which, you know, I guess I understand their concerns. I mean, but, you know, I'm always a little bit out of place. And of course, anytime I'm having a bad day, or which when you have a kid and you're taking care of a kid, you have a lot of bad days. It's hard. It's really hard. But they're always like, well, you just need to get a job. You'll feel a lot better if you just get a job. That's always the solution to any trouble that you're having, because it's just because, well, you're a man and you should be working. And it's like, no, actually, you know, I support my wife. My wife has a career she loves.
Yeah, it's still pretty old-fashioned, Seth. Like, I remember after I had Mo, and they're like, oh, you're not going to come back. You're going to take your 12 weeks off, and you're just going to want to stay at home because you're going to love your child, and you'll forget about teaching. And I'm like, I don't think I will. I really enjoy teaching, and I imagine after 3 months at home, I'll want to go back to teaching. And no, you'll feel that maternal bond, and nothing will be more important than staying at home and taking care of your kid. And I said, you know, for a lot of people, that's true, and that's great, but that's not for everybody. And so, you know, even both ways, you know, the choices that we make, my choice to go for the career was still met with some judgment, and for Greg to not have your typical job and his job to be a stay-at-home dad, you know, he receives some of that too. Everybody's like, so you're at home with your kid, but what are you going to do? I'm going to take care of her. No, but what's your real work? Well,
what's your plan? What's your plan? Like, what's your exit strategy on this whole thing? You know, like, I'm not trying to get out of it. I'm trying to take care of my kid.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good. It sounds good then that you guys have each other to fall back on that, because who cares what other people think? If the situation is fulfilling your family, that's the only thing that matters. So.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've done okay with the decisions that we make for ourselves, and yet because they're not normative, like, that's the problem. And it's like, wait a second now. I mean, you know, if the roles were reversed, we would be perfect.
Yeah.
But they're not, and so there's a problem.
Yeah. All right. So I'm asking these questions to everybody that I interview, and it's been really fun for me. So let's just get started here. Question number 1 is, what is the best piece of advice that anyone gave you, or the worst piece of advice that anyone gave you? I'll accept both or either one.
I think for me, it was someone who gave me a card and they said, "Welcome to the greatest adventure of your life." And just that phrase, I'm like, what do you mean by that? And now I feel it, it is wonderful. Like being a mom and being parents is great. And it's a wild adventure. We never know what to expect with her. And there are just like the best moments where she just, like heart melting and you just love her. And then there's the really hard days too. So I guess, yeah, just enjoy this wild adventure that you're going to have. And so I really appreciated hearing that. I think the worst advice I got was during the beginning months with Mo, where people said, well, if she's taking a nap, just take a nap with her. So if she falls asleep at 10 in the morning, you fall asleep at 10 in the morning. But for me, that just wasn't practical. Your body gets used to kind of a rhythm. And so, yeah, that wasn't helpful.
And I agree with that one. That one I always felt was really, because it's like, well, there's other shit I want to do in my day. And like I'm trying to live some semblance of both lives, I guess, albeit poorly. Yeah. But trying to maintain that. And so that was not helpful advice. I mean, for on the positive side, the one I can't even remember who told me it, but I remember someone saying, you're going to write the rules together for this kid with your spouse and with the kid. And each one of them are entities into and unto themselves. And so, you'll figure out what works for that specific child together.
Question 2. What did no one tell you that you wish that they had?
It is the, there's a lot.
Go see a movie while you can.
But I can't. They're all closed.
Yeah.
I know. But once you have a kid, like the idea of I'm going to go out and go see a movie like at a theater, that's just something that you took for granted. But once you have a kid, you really can't do that as much.
Yeah.
So yeah, go see a movie now while you can, or go get your solid 8 hours of sleep while you can.
Go.
Those days are numbered.
All the things that you really like to do, where you're like, oh, I get 3 hours of uninterrupted, I do this. Like all that stuff goes away.
Well, that sounds great.
I know. It's wonderful. It's the best thing ever, Seth. And even when she goes to sleep, I spend my time looking at her wonderful, beautiful pictures, and I miss her. So as much as it drives you insane, I can't imagine life without her.
No.
Question 3. What is the one toy or piece of equipment or distraction, whatever, that you absolutely couldn't have survived without?
Mo loves to read books.
Cool.
And so we've spent a lot of time reading her favorite books over and over again and talking about the colors and the pictures and having her read it. I know for me, it was a way to be kind of close, where she'd sit on my lap and we'd read together. It was part of our ritual of going to sleep at night. And even on public transportation in Berlin, if she was ever having a fussy moment, you just bring out her favorite book and like all is right with the world. And she's just super happy. And so, we see that now a little bit now that she's 3, like she knows how to say a lot of words. But books have just been amazing tools. And
for me, it was the stroller. Having a really good, solid stroller. We went all over with that thing. And if we had to have been wrangling her, as opposed to having her, strapped down like a mental patient, that would have been much, much more difficult.
And now when she would go on walks together, she wants to just walk without it.
I know.
And so she's growing out of the stroller, and we kind of are seeing our time with the stroller come to an end, which is really sentimental.
Yeah.
We've gone so many places with it. It's, walked the streets of so many towns and countries. And so, we're happy that she's now learning how to walk with us, but we're also
mourning the loss of the stroller, because it means it's one of the last things of her being a baby.
Yeah.
And she's
big
getting ready to move on out from that part of her life, and it's like, oh.
Oh man. All right, let's question 4. I'm realizing in these interviews that I think this question says more about me than it does about anything, because I guess I was such a rebellious person, so this question makes sense to me, but everybody else has been kind of like, I don't know. What did your parents do that you swore you would never do when you were a child, and yet you find yourself doing it anyway as a parent?
It's funny because when Greg and I talked about that question of yours, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I was just a terrible kid.
No, I had one immediately. See, it's funny, those reactions. I guess you and I have more in common stuff, because I was like, for me I was like, oh, I'm not going to mock my child.
That's all you do.
I know. I'm not going to mock my child. And I mock her ceaselessly. I mean, it's funny and it's fun, and I don't do it in a malicious way or anything like that. But I remember being like, I didn't like that my parents were always giving me a hard time, and and everything. And yet now I find myself like, oh, sweetie, it gets much worse than this. You think it's hard? Oh, it gets so. Buckle that chin strap. We're in for a fun ride.
Question number 5. This is something I've never done before, and I'm about to have to do it a lot. So I would like to know, what is your technique for changing a diaper?
I mean, I got it right off the top of my head.
Okay.
You want me to go? You want to go?
No, I'll go first.
This is our relationship.
Just make sure you know the difference between the front and the back side. That's key.
Oh, thank you. No one has said that yet.
Yep. Know which side is front and back. And then, you'll change so many diapers that you can do it in your sleep without even thinking about it. It's like, brushing your teeth. It's just.
Don't do that after you change the diaper.
Yeah. But just make sure the back side is on the back side and the front's on the front side. And yeah, it's easy.
Okay, so here you go. You take one hand and you pin the ankles, and you lift, right? And then you wipe. You wipe everything up, right? Wipe by braille. Like when you feel, unless it feels smooth, it's still dirty. And you wipe and you wipe and you wipe. But the way I always say is, I go clean +1. So I wipe until everything feels clean, and then I do one more wipe.
Okay, clean +1.
You do not want a kid that's got an itchy butt or that's just miserable with that sort of thing. You will regret every moment of shortcutting that cleanup. Set the bad boy down, hold him up, slide the diaper under, set it down, put it all together, and yeah, then wash your hands immediately, because I can't tell you how many times I have found poop that I was like, how did that happen? Why is there poop on my elbow? Like, why is there poop on my elbow? I mean, it just, poop gets everywhere.
So that's perfect. I got make sure it's the right way. I got wipe by braille and clean +1. Those are all 3 new pieces of advice, and I'm grateful for them. So that is the end of what I have to ask you. Is there anything else you want to say that I haven't brought up?
I'm looking forward to it because for you, because I know for me it was an amazing reframing device in my life. It put a filter over over my life in a way that really cut the bullshit. The clarity and the filter, and I think especially, you know, being musicians, being people who perform and stuff like that, you know, it's a pretty, by nature, it's a pretty self-centered sort of pursuit, you know? And so, you know, it's funny how much of that shit falls aside when you got the little person in your hands. And it's like, you know, I used to get pissed off because I didn't do my workout, or I used to get pissed off because I didn't practice, or I used to get pissed off because I wasn't getting enough sleep, or and all that just falls away.
Confinement song number 1, dedicated to all the parents out there. Day 1, this is fun. There is cooking to be done. There is food for everyone. But it's still just day 1. I like this. Together, we are all in this together. Working all the time is over. This is everything and better.